Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller forecast for Pisces for January 2018. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out my new blog series, Full Moon Reveal and Release Ceremonies for each full moon. Plus, I have my Making Powerful New Moon and Wishes blog series on there you can find. And definitely go to my new website, cozybysweetstarlight.com, and check out your written report for each sign that focuses on different things than I focus on in the videos. So that gives you a more well-rounded look at your astrological picture for the month. So Happy New Year! We are in a period of time where this actually feels like a new year. If you've been listening to my reports for years, you've heard me talk about in many Januaries in recent times when we've had personal planets retrograde in January, where it just is sleepy. It's a sleepy start. It doesn't feel like a new year. The energies are more rolling backwards instead of moving forward, but not this year. This year is really something. This month is, I mean, in fact, I've done the longest transit report I think I've ever done for this month for January, which will follow this individual sign report because it is so extensive. We have 2 full moons this month, which are both super moons. We've got a total lunar eclipse as one of those full moon supermoons. And that also happens to be a blue moon. Okay, so there's just a massive amount of things going on. And of course, eclipses bring radical changes. But this period of time in January is also my favorite time for launching things, doing new things, trying to get things out in the world, because most of 2018 is covered in Mercury, Venus, or Mars retrograde. So this is just like a crazy powerful month. And there is very much an energy of a clean slate and lots of new things. Now, of course, with new things, we have to also release old things. There is a quantum understanding that energy is not created nor destroyed. It simply changes form. And at eclipse time, we really see this. Something is removed from our lives and something else is brought in to fill that space. Space wants to be filled. If you have an empty space on a shelf, it's not empty for too long. It wants to fill. That's what happens with these eclipses. So this month, January, and next month, February, we're going to be talking about the eclipses. One of them is in January on the 31st, and one of them is on February on the 15th. So we'll focus on the solar eclipse next month on the 15th. That's the energy of things coming in new. We'll talk about the closures this month for January, which also can bring in new things, because when something is closing, sometimes the new thing is ushered right in. You can often feel eclipse news or information or shifts coming even 4 to 6 weeks before the eclipse. So that puts the middle of December as ripe territory for these changes, these shifts, these closings to come in. And, you know, this is a big period of time. This isn't like the day of the eclipse. The 31st is the day of the eclipse. These eclipses have stories that are so much bigger than that day. We started the eclipse cycle of Leo and Aquarius at the beginning of 2017. And this story of Leo Aquarius eclipses run well into 2019. So we're here mid-story. So there's certain things that are carrying like a theme in your life that's moving across a continuum over this time. So another chapter ends in this story and another chapter begins in this story. And that's what the eclipses are all about. So let's talk about where we might see these closures. Globally for everyone, something ending in the energy of Leo, having to do with children, milestones for children, anything having to do with creative projects, milestones for projects, ending, completion of a project. There could be something romantically, there could be hobbies, the ending of something fun that you were working on. This is also energy of addictions, so the closing out of an addiction and changing into a new path. Specifically for Pisces, I'm calling the theme of the month, or the eclipse for the 31st, which again is a total lunar eclipse at 11 degrees of Leo. Your routine rocked. And this is more prominent for you early and some of you middle degree placements. The later degree placements, this energy is going to hit more in your 5th house. So this has to do with more the unleashing of your creations. Okay, so we'll talk about all of this. When a lunar eclipse comes, it eclipses something out. Okay, so the 6th house is being focused on for your early and middle degree placements. And some of you middle degree placements will experience it in the 5th house along with those late degree placements. The way to figure out if you have an early, middle, or late degree placement is to divide the sign by thirds. So the first day that the sun's in that sign, there's 30 days. The first 10 days are early, the second 10 days are middle, and the last 10 days are late. You can do this for your rising sign as well. 0 to 9 degrees is early, 10 to 19 is middle, and 20 to 29 degrees is late. So you can figure out where you are in there, depending on if you're watching for your rising sign or your sun sign. So if you have this eclipse happening in the 6th house, something is likely leaving from the 6th house. The 6th house rules routines, so you could have the closure of a major routine. Maybe your yoga studio closes. It could be that you end a cycle. Maybe you were doing something every day and that ended for whatever reason. You can also have closures at work. So someone could leave your office. You could leave your office. You could leave your job. Something like that. A contract, if you're self-employed, could be ending. Something is closing out from something that you do every day, and it could be related to work, especially if you work every day or regularly. Also, this could have something to do with a pet. There could be closures or endings having to do with pets. Sometimes we see a pet transition in this time. Sometimes we see a problem that a pet was having come to a close and the pet is fine and moves on from this. So what is the closure is the problem. And then you move forward because everything is fine. So something, or even a milestone. Maybe your pet has been doing agility and you've ended a year series with them or something like that. And now they've graduated, so some kind of closure or ending or milestone as it relates to an important animal in your life. So the rest of the middle and late degree placements will experience this closing, this ending, this culmination having to do with the 5th house, which is children, creative projects, hobbies, romance. So it could be the end of a romantic relationship. It could be the end of a romantic stage of a relationship, moving on to the more permanent relationship. It could be a milestone for children. It could be a creative project finding its closure. If you have a looming creative project and you're getting that nudge to close it up, there are so many reasons why this is the month to wrap it up and get it out. So we're calling this the theme for you, the rest of you middle to late degree placements, unleashing your creations, because it's time to let something you've created, whether it's a child or a project, out into its next stage of freedom. So those are the energies that are most prominent when it has to do with the eclipses. Sometimes there could be a culmination, like back to the 6th house for you early in some of the middle degree placements. Sometimes the full moon can involve, something like, let's say you've been working on something, a project at work. Maybe a project at work could meet its completion, something like that. So hopefully you see where I'm going with this. Now, full moons are usually emotional. This full moon is going to be very emotional, extra emotional, more emotional than even we're used to, because it is a supermoon, which means the moon is closer to the earth. It looks like it's closer to the earth. The gravitational effects are intensified. And it's also a blue moon. So these are the things that are most on my mind for Pisces this month as it relates to the lunar eclipses and the closing energies. We'll talk about the new energies that are coming in with the February report and the solar eclipse. You might start to get news of new things coming in, news of rumblings. And it's also possible that if you haven't gotten news yet, even as of the last day of the month of January, sometimes the effects of an eclipse happen afterwards. Okay, so keep listening out because there could be notable news for you. So now I want to go into a crazy in-depth focus on why January is such a powerful month, a lot of details about the aspects that are going on and what to know about them so that you can maximize the expression. So the theme for the month of January for all signs is once in a blue moon. This is such a power-packed month. It is so crazy. I hope that I can do it justice. There are so many things to talk about. And one of those things is a blue moon, which also happens to be a supermoon, which also happens to be a total lunar eclipse. So we'll get to that. But there are a lot of things about this month that are so important to know. The first piece of information is that this month will truly be like a clean slate and a launching pad as we think of a new year to be. Many Januaries in recent times, if you've been listening to my reports for years, you've heard me talking about this very often. Many Januaries are covered in a Mercury or another personal planet retrograde. And so we start out this new year with everyone expecting there to be this burst of new energy. But when there's the shroud in retrograde, it doesn't work that way. So this year is actually energetically new and open. It is completely free and clear of personal planet retrogrades after January 12th. We are still in the shadow period for Mercury retrograde that happened in December. But once we get up to January 12th, that shadow is completely past. And even in the days leading up to the 12th, there's still so much energy for moving forward. This period of time between January 12th and March 9th is very critical to understand in the scheme of the year. January is one of the 3 months, well, it's actually January, February, up through March 9th, where you don't have any personal planets retrograde. Personal planets are the ones closest to us. So the ones that go retrograde are Mercury, Venus, and Mars. When one of those planets are retrograde, we're in a phase of going backwards and inwards. Okay, so kind of the tide is coming in. Okay, the emotional tides are coming in. Everything is going inward. We don't want to launch our boat off of an island when the tide is coming in. Okay, that's why I spend so much time helping you understand these energies. So between March and throughout the rest of the whole 2018, we have Mercury, Mars, then Mercury and Venus and Mercury 3 times being retrograde. So if you're planning on getting something out there, I'm going to light a little fire under your butt, or big fire under your butt. If you are intuitively drawn that now could be the time for you and that this is making sense with your being, it feels right, take advantage of this open launch pad between January, February, and into March. So even though the shadow period doesn't end until January 12th, there are amazing dates within, like from the 6th through the 9th especially. I'll go into more details about that. That if you're feeling really ready to start pushing some things out, then that would be great. Okay, so now we understand that January is my favorite month of the year for launching things, for pushing things out, for starting things, for making new decisions, for, doing big things. It's also one of the only months in the year that the tides energetically are not coming in. So that's the first thing to know. The second thing to know is that we have 2 full moons this month. This is going to be a very emotional month, for better and worse. Sometimes emotions are high because something is awesome, like this full moon that we start out with. We start the year out with January 1st or 2nd, depending on your time zone. We start out the year with a full moon in Cancer. So that brings fullness, completion, fruition to everything with home, family, maternal energies, mothers, mothering, houses, real estate, anything having to do with home and family and maternal energy. And for some people, that could be this wonderful coming together of family, wonderful family holiday time. It could be some culmination for some housing related thing. So it could be the emotional tides are running high in a positive way. It could also be some conflict or strife or drama or something coming to a head as it relates to one of those sectors. The second full moon is also, oh, by the way, that first full moon, the Cancer one, is the first supermoon of the year. A supermoon is when the moon is closer to the earth and it looks like it. It looks bigger in the sky. Sometimes you look out at the full moon and you're like, oh my gosh, why is it so big? It feels like we're, on a different planet looking at a different moon. That is a supermoon. So we've got only 2 supermoons this year and both of them are in January. So if you understand that obviously the moon has gravitational effects on water, we're mostly water, the planet's mostly water, we feel those full moons. It's never questioned, even by mainstream people, that people are affected by the full moon, okay? It makes me bonkers to not see how people don't extrapolate out, like, okay, if we're affected by the moon that way, obviously we're just as affected by the rest of the planetary transits that way, whatever, but that's another topic. But either way, this full moon is a super moon, so it's going to be more emotional, it's going to be more powerful. The second full moon of the month, which is called a blue moon, and it's also a super moon. So we have 2 super moons in the year. We have 2 super moons in January. We have 2 full moons in January, and they're both these crazy, powerful moons. And the second one on the 31st is this full moon in Leo, which is also a total lunar eclipse, which is visible throughout a lot of the world. Pretty much everyone in the United States will have some view of this. Lots of Northeast Europe, Asia, Australia, Russia. There are many places in the world that will actually see this total lunar eclipse. So a blue moon has different definitions depending on who you ask. But one of the definitions is that there's a second full moon in a calendar month. All right, so that's the definition we're using here. Also, sometimes when there's a second full moon in a sign, that would be a blue moon. But in this case, we've got the full moon in Cancer and the full moon in Leo, and the second one is the blue moon. So obviously we have the saying, once in a blue moon. These blue moons don't happen very often. It takes a couple of years for that difference between the lunar calendar, which is about 28 days, or the lunar month, and the calendar months. There's about 11 days difference in, the lunar calendar to the regular calendar that we use. So when that lines up after a couple of years, a little over 2 years usually, that's when the blue moon happens. So this is a very special time. This is a very momentous time. This eclipse is going to remove things from our lives for better and worse. This is the end of an era for many, many areas in life. And we'll talk about, well, actually I did talk about that in the, where this might hit for your sign in the sign report before this general transit report. Okay, so some other input about the month of January is that we have dominating energies in Capricorn. So most of the personal planet energy is, moving into this Capricorn energy, which is steadfast, ambitious, practical, efficient. And it's interesting because Capricorn energies are very unemotional, right? But we've got these 2 full moons, these super moons, with all of this emotion. So there'll be a lot more emotion going on compared to the general energies of Capricorn. Also boosting the Capricorn quotient here is that Saturn has recently, as of the end of December, moved into the sign of Capricorn, which is its own sign. So we talked about that in the report last month for December. So if you haven't listened to my December report, I talk about how Saturn changing signs will affect you. So Saturn moving into Capricorn is a whole new era of this, of the story of Saturn. So you can see this clean slate, this new start, this launching pad. And it's interesting because often eclipses will change trajectories. So although this is a really great open time for doing something, for acting on, doing something specific, launching something, the eclipses often change directions. So really tune into your intuition when you're feeling into what you're supposed to be bringing out and how many resources to put into bringing those things out. And do just expect some wild universal trajectory changes. So maybe you buy a house this month and then all of a sudden in a couple of weeks from the eclipse, you get a job offer somewhere else and now you have this house that you just got. You can see there's a lot of that kind of energy going on where you're moving forward doing something, but then the universe takes you whoop over here. So that's going to be a pretty wild time. So let's talk more about the breakdown of the month. And you can get a written version of some of the highlights that I'm about to discuss when you go to anniehelpsyou.com and sign up for my email newsletter. or you could also go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. When you sign up for the newsletter at either of those places, it's the same newsletter. Cozybysweetstarlight.com also gives you a written version of your signs horoscope, usually focusing on something different than what I talk about in the videos. So it's a nice supplement. So when you go to one of those two websites, you can sign up for the free email newsletter, and a month before, just like I do these videos a month before, you'll get a written version of the dates to note, the energies that are happening on that day. So if you like to have that for your organization, then definitely go there and do that. So we'll talk about some of the highlights. Okay, so we talked about the full moon starting at the beginning. There's, on that same day, we have an amazing aspect with the sun in Capricorn making a nice aspect to Neptune. And this is a transit that heightens intuitive sensitivities. You know, it's dreamtime insights can be accentuated at this time. It's just a nice dreamy transit. So that's happening at the same time as this supermoon, full moon in Cancer. The other aspect that's happening on January 2nd is Uranus is going direct. Whenever a planet goes direct, there's always there's awkwardness. It's like when you're going to make a U-turn, you have to slow down and you have to going again and you have to get up to speed, and it's just very awkward. But this sleeping giant Uranus, the bringer of change, which eclipses always remind me of the energy of Uranus because they bring things out of the blue and they just kind of have sudden endings, sudden beginnings. And Uranus is very much like that. So now with Uranus awakening, there's this, it's the bringer of swift and radical change, and it's sort of getting its footing again. So expect things that have been working in the backdrop to really start pushing forward with this energy. Then on January 3rd, there's a beautiful aspect with Venus in Capricorn and Neptune. And this is a sweet romantic aspect. You know, it's their idealism blends beautifully with practicalism, and it's just a nice blending of opposites in a harmonious way. On January 6th, we have Mercury making a beautiful aspect with Uranus and Aries, and this often brings exciting news or innovative ideas. This is going to be a month full of news. News is going to come in from all kinds of different transits, for better and worse. You know, lots of surprises. So when Mercury and Uranus combine, this is a really good time to do technology-related things. We're still in the shadow of Mercury retrograde, the post-shadow. Like I said, you know, because at the end of December, it went direct. But until January 12th, we still have Mercury a little bit shaky. But starting around now, around the 6th, there's enough oomph forward that if you're feeling like it's time to get some stuff done, it's time to get a new phone, it's time to get a new car, it's time to launch your projects, you can start putting cogs in the wheel, moving things forward at this time. Also on January 6th, we have Mars in Scorpio conjunct Jupiter in Scorpio. Whenever we have a conjunction, there's a possibility for positive effects and there's a possibility for challenging effects. So, you know, Scorpio is this emotional, internal, deep energy. And so when you take actions now, because Mars rules action, it can go further because Jupiter is the great expander. It's kind of like taking your idea and then putting it on a rebounder and then bouncing it off even higher. That's the energy that Mars combining with Jupiter reminds me of. So again, this is another reason why I like this time for moving forward, especially with collaborations or Scorpio-related things. Also, very close by on January 8th, we have the Sun and Venus conjunct with each other in Capricorn, and they're both making a beautiful aspect to Jupiter and Scorpio. So here we have Mars make a notable aspect to Jupiter. Now we have the Sun and Venus. The Sun rules your vitality, your creativity, and Venus rules love, beauty, and money. So they're combined in practical Capricorn. Okay, so that's amazing for business things. Then they're making a beautiful aspect to the expander of our world, Jupiter. So there are lots of opportunities to shine creative brilliance and make money doing it, and there are probably some romantic potentials rolled into that mix. On that same day, we have Mars in Scorpio making a nice aspect to Pluto. So this transit can expand the powers of penetration and focus and productivity, you know, penetrating focus and productivity. So if you have to get stuff done, coming together to share or collaborate. It increases the potential. So you can see some similar energies coming together at this time. That's why I'm kind of giving a green light based on concurrence with your intuition, that if you want to start moving forward now, even though we're not completely out of the shadow period, there's amazing opportunity to do that. Okay, so also this merging of Mars and Pluto with this nice aspect could come from joining or manifest in joining forces with either someone in a powerful position or powers of the unseen realm, so esoteric focus. On January 9th, we have the Sun in Capricorn conjunct Venus and Pluto, and the Sun and Venus making a nice aspect to Mars in Scorpio. So we've got now a huge lineup, all of these things that we see kind of piling up on top of each other. There's more of that. So creativity and money and action are blending together beautifully at this time. And we've got just, female and male energies blending harmoniously. If there are any challenges that come up, the solutions will also be nearby. This is a very intense time, but it's also a very practical and grounded time because there's so much energy in Capricorn. It's like it wants practical solutions. It wants outcomes. It wants fruition of ambition. Between January 12th and 13th, we have Mercury in Capricorn and Saturn conjunct. So whenever there's a conjunction, there's an amplification of both of the energies, and then you take into consideration the sign. So Mercury a lot of times represents news. Saturn a lot of times represents a buzzkill. And so like some harsh reality could come in at this time. But alternatively, we can see this as a manifestation of affirming up, like something made tangible. Mercury expression made tangible, Saturn made permanent, something like that. So it could be harsh or be a bummer, or it could just be a hard-working energy that really solidifies some things for you. So again, I like all of this energy for establishing something important, making important decisions. So at the same time, Venus in Capricorn is squaring Uranus in Aries. So because of this, even though I like this time for moving forward, the way these kind of, we live in a dual reality. So there's this great stuff and then there's this more challenging stuff. It's going on at the same time. And you really have to feel for that sweet spot in between in your personal flow, basically. So Venus and Uranus coming together usually brings jolts or surprises having to do with your self-esteem. It could have to do with a romantic relationship, a jolt or a surprise, a conflict within a romantic relationship. It could be a money jolt. It's very common when Venus and Uranus get together in this configuration that all of a sudden you have to pay $600 for a new washing machine or something like that, like an expense that comes out of the blue. And it's never a good time for that, right? So that's going on at the same time. So you just want to feel in with all of these energies with launches. Don't push forward for the sake of itself. Just really dial in and make sure that you have a personal flow on that day that you're trying to do something so that you're not pushing against the tides. On the same day, Venus is also making a nice aspect to Chiron. So this blends intuition with the tangible reality. So again, we're talking about this. If you can just really not let will be the only force at play here, this month is one that's really good for being active and using your will to do some important things. But we don't want to let that domination of the material will focus interfere with the intuitive part of things. Okay, so that's what this aspect is saying. It's saying that you can move around the challenges if you're paying attention. All right. Also, you can look to see how softness or beauty can be added to the concrete reality. This aspect can bring in that focus. On January 14th, we have the Sun in Capricorn squaring Uranus. So again, this jostling to creative flow or jostling to your sense of identity. Tests could also come to something important you're working on now. So maybe you're starting to push some things forward and you're getting some pushback, and this aspect could represent that. The Sun in Capricorn is making a nice aspect to Chiron on the 15th. Okay, so we have lots of nice energy as far as being seen in a favorable light by someone, and possibly someone who could be helpful to you. On January 15th, we also have this awesome aspect with Jupiter making a 60-degree angle to Pluto. 60-degree angles, we have a lot of those this month. They're the kind of angle that is harmonious, but it also wants you to do something with them. A trine, which is a 120-degree angle, is an aspect that you could do something with, but it usually just brings stuff to you. You know, this 60-degree angle wants you, it gives you something, and then it's like, how I always describe this is that if you want to make a pie, and you have all the ingredients for the pie on the counter, the pie doesn't make itself. And these 60-degree angles bring all the ingredients for something, but then you have to go ahead and use them to make something. So Jupiter, the great expander in Scorpio, making a nice aspect to Pluto in practical Capricorn, gives the chance for success as a natural byproduct of hard work and self-development. So the more you look within, the more, and that's the Scorpio energy, the more your Capricorn energy, which is your place in the world, your material efforts and accomplishments, that can naturally just come into fruition. So any work that you put towards making positive life changes, even up until this point, will help to make this aspect go further. But you might have to take some action on it. Okay. On January 16th, we have the new moon at almost 27 degrees of Capricorn. So this is a powerhouse of a new moon. It is conjunct, which is right next to Pluto. Okay, so it's also right next to Venus. So that brings powerful transformation potentials, especially as it relates to self-esteem or money or romance. There's also a 60-degree angle to Jupiter, which expands the awesome potentials much further. But again, there might be an action required. Then there's a nice aspect, a 60-degree angle to Mars, which brings power into action. And then there's a nice aspect to Chiron, which brings great potentials to be, again, seen in a positive light by people who could be assistive to you or people whose opinions matter to you. And possibly could promote your work or what you're trying to do. So there's all these really good aspects with the new moon. And then, of course, there's that one little wild card, which is Uranus. And so the new moon is also squaring Uranus, which brings this uncomfortable wild card into this otherwise perfect mix. So just look out for that little dinger. On January 18th, we have a beautiful aspect with Mars and Chiron, and this can bring major power to look for meaning and solutions and the chance for powerful and permanent healing of a fractured reality. Okay, so Chiron represents this fractured reality, this woundedness, this issue that is a plague for us. And when Mars comes together, again, Mars rules action. When Mars comes into the mix in this nice aspect trine, it gives this chance for the powerful and permanent healing. On the 24th, we have Mercury and Pluto conjunct. Again, we talked about this before when Mercury was conjunct with Saturn. A conjunction amplifies the energies of both parties, both signs. Or both, well, all of it, basically. In this case, it would be the same sign because it's a conjunction, but the planets. So Mercury rules communication, information, creative expression. Pluto rules transformation. So powerful news and powerful expression is more likely at this time. And it's not particularly emotional because it's in Capricorn. So it could be just a very strong expression that's run into something permanent. Pushing out into something permanent. You see me using the word permanent a lot this month. That's because the energy of Capricorn is one of permanence. It's something that you're building. It's something that you're growing. It's something that is material. And there's just so much energy of the immaterial blending with the material. So that's why you keep hearing me use that word this month. So this is an amazing energy for important business and other moves. And it's really supportive of rightly placed ambition. Okay, the reason why we say rightly placed is because with Pluto, Pluto rules power. And not everybody, or not, I mean, really all humans sometimes don't use their power in the right way, right? This is a human issue that we're working on. So the more you can use your power in the right way, when you have aspects like this, the more it's supported for positive outcomes that are free from negative karma. On the 25th, we have Mercury in Capricorn making a beautiful aspect, again, a 60-degree angle that requires some action, to Jupiter in Scorpio. So this combination can bring a greatly expanded reverberation of your voice. So whether it's written or spoken or whatever your medium is, Mercury ruling your expression and Jupiter ruling this expansion, you have this resounding effect. So it's magical for really being heard, especially by someone in a position to assist or collaborate. And you'll hear this theme again and again this month too. All of this energy in Scorpio, Jupiter and Scorpio making aspects with all of these planets, that's the energy of someone assisting you, someone being in the perfect place to assist you, or you being in the perfect place to assist someone else. It favors collaboration. Between the 27th and the 28th, Mercury in Capricorn is making a square to Uranus. So this transit can increase the likelihood for surprising and stressful news, but some softness or ultimate healing outcomes are also increased because Mercury is also making a nice aspect to Chiron at the same time. So this sweet aspect to Chiron can soften this a little bit, but we have quite a few jolts this month with Uranus where it's like, up, surprise news, up, surprise things going on with money, up, surprise, and then we have the eclipses, which often bring the big surprises. So speaking of the devil or the angel, however you want to look at this, the full moon, the super moon in Leo at 11 degrees of Leo, also a lunar eclipse, total lunar eclipse, can bring notable completion, culmination, fruition, or drama in the houses that it occurs in for you, which we talked about in the individual sign report. But the general closure, drama, culmination, fruition, completion for everyone is occurring in the energy of Leo. And Leo has to do with children. It has to do with creative projects. It has to do with romance, romantic partners. It could be a permanent partner, but sometimes it could be just someone more casually, romantically that you're together with. This also is any creative project, and it also can rule addictions. So something is coming to a close. So this is an amazing time to kick a bad habit. This is an amazing time to end a project. And you see how nicely this full moon goes with this theme of getting your things out into the world. We're in this open window to push things out. And here this eclipse is coming, bringing an end to something. So many people are going to have a creative project come to a close and be birthed, and then they're on to the next thing or the next level of that thing. So these are the things that are most on my mind for the general transits. Wow, what a month. So happy new year. Definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com and check out my new full moon reveal and release ceremony blog series. I'll have that for all the full moons now. You can also check out my Making Powerful Wishes in each new moon series, which is on anniehelpsyou.com. If you go to cozybysweetstarlight.com, you can see written horoscopes that are very succinct. I am not known for my succinctness because I'm a teacher of astrology and I love to teach, and so my videos are long. But on cozybysweetstarlight.com, the reports there are very short, very succinct, very well organized, very easy to take in, and they also include great reads for each month for each sign. And they often talk about something different in the chart than I'm talking about in the videos, so you get a more well-rounded picture of what your astrological experiences may be. Also check out my husband, B.R. Newman's Taroscopes. So you can go to iamhelios.com, iamhelios.com, to see what other additional information he might have for you with his tarot. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.